gummy bear.
It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for February 17th, 2023. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game S Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, Activision has record revenue, so of course it's slashing bonus payments. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game S Mornings. It's Mike Minotti from GamesBeat. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, it is me. Actually, no, I'm still pretty upset about yesterday, Jeff.
Yeah, do you want to explain to everybody like what you've been going through, like your trials, your tribulations? It's basically you're like Jesus and how you've suffered here.
Yes. No. I'm a good Catholic boy. I would never compare myself to Jesus.
I'll say it then.
Yeah, you can. You can say it in hell. Jeff and I on our other podcast yesterday, we did this fun thing where we each tried to draft like a 16-bit console, like drafting from the libraries of the Genesis and Super Nintendo. And the whole time, it was like, I was doing really good. And even Jeff's like, haha, wow, Mike, you got this. And then we put up to the poll, I got destroyed.
And at first we're like, it's because everyone likes it when Mikey's mad. Because everyone likes it when Mike is yelling and feeling like he's been put in the corner like a wounded animal. It's comedic. But then I made it an anonymous poll on Twitter, and it was basically the same exact score again. So yeah,
if you want to see the list, go on Jeff's Twitter. I'm the one on the left, he's on the right. But I don't know. You dominated the RPG market, and I think I thought people cared more about Genesis games than they do. I should have seen that one coming. But I had people like, oh, yours is the old man system. I'm like, Jeff has freaking SimCity and like Mario Paint and Star Fox on there. And I'm the old man system because I got Rocket Knight Adventures, which you all should play. Then, if I ever have to hear anyone tell me again that Super Metroid is overrated, I think I just will leave this industry. I don't want to exist in an industry where Super Metroid's overrated, Jeff.
Yeah, it's like of our two consoles, I would have picked yours. Super Metroid, Super Mario World, and a whole bunch of other ones. But
but it's not about me, Jeff. It's about the news.
It's about the news. I don't know.
I can't believe people think I scream a lot.
That's fun. We'll do that again. That was a good time. Mike, let's get into the mess. But before we do so, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello YouTube. Hello YouTube. Thank you, Mike. It's Friday. I'm out of it. I'm like, my kids are off today, so I'm already in that weekend mindset. It's President's Day on Monday. I don't know. Monday? I think they're probably like the teacher in work service day or whatever. We have a lot to get into. So let's start the morning mess with Blizzard is proud of Mike Ybarra's leadership following, quote, awful company-wide meeting. This comes from Ed Nightingale at Eurogamer. Activision Blizzard has said it is proud of Mike Ybarra's leadership following a disastrous company-wide meeting to discuss an internal employee satisfaction survey. During the meeting, Ybarra was asked several pre-screened questions on its supposed use of stack ranking for employee performance, the slashing of profit share bonuses for 2022, and the announcement employees will be required to return to the office into in-office working. However, Blizzard employees soon took to social media after the meeting to express their outrage at Ybarra's comments. As Game Developer reports, Blizzard is set to slash profit share bonuses down to 58% across the company. In response, Ybarra commented, "If you think that executives are making a lot of money and you aren't, you're living in a myth." Wow. Oh my God.
Okay.
I'll say
it's just as bad all around, Jeff.
We're all suffering here, he says from his yacht. I heard about this. This is real. Like, this was like almost like comedic in its how badly they messed up the messaging on this. Bobby Kotick told people that they were going to only get 18% of their bonus, so people were freaking out. Like, that's like way less than what was expected. But it was like 18% of the second payment, so they got 50% earlier. They were getting another 50% later. Like, okay, well, actually, we're going to do like 18% of, or whatever it is, 58% total is what they're getting in their bonuses. It's still a pretty big cut into what it was expected pay. It's just Christmas vacation if you are trying to understand bonuses. Exactly what happened there happened here. So the eventually Kodak had to come back and like correct that, but people are still pretty mad, although it wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. While the drop in the bonus will affect all employees, it will have a greater impact on employees with a lower salary. There were also reportedly concerns from employees about the impact of lower bonuses in the context of returning to the office, which will bring higher commuting and/or living costs. Ybarra reportedly did not provide a clear action plan on retaining talent due to these changes, though elsewhere Blizzard stated it would be opening new offices in unnamed locations to act as hubs. Ybarra did respond, "At the end of the day, we want people to be happy, and if decisions about being happy don't align with where we're going, and you won't be happy, then you'll have to do what will make you happy." Which is basically, well, fuck you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
That's just incredible from a company that loves to toe the family word, right? Blizzard loves to be like, we're a family. Even they do
everything at BlizzCon is a family. Yep.
Yeah, we're all. Yeah. They show the montage about how they're family, and they get a camera showing all the smiling developers. But then it's like, as soon as there's any kind of strife, it's like, well, if you don't like it, you can leave. Just like my family.
It is really odd for them to be doing the go back to the office thing right as Destiny 2 is maybe the best it's ever been, according to fans, and they did all of that work remote. Everything that was done in Destiny 2 was done remotely. So it's like, over there, someone that we used to work with has figured this out and is able to attract talent worldwide because they have fully remote procedures for building games. And we need to go back in the office because we rent the offices and we feel like we're wasting money if we don't use them.
I don't know. Like, the only thing I can think of here, Blizzard does have very elaborate offices, right? They're very proud of their campus, so it bothers them to have that like sitting a little bit empty. I don't know, sell off some of the campus then or whatever. Is this them trying to force people out? Are they, instead of doing layoffs,
that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because now you're not picking who gets to stay.
Yes.
And you need developers. You are shipping Diablo 4 soon. And that's going to be a live service game and a premium game. You need developers. You can't just hope that the right amount of people leave because they don't want to come in for work. It's baffling to me. It's completely weird. The whole work from home thing. That genie is out of that bottle. There, we had to do it because of the pandemic, and a lot of people realized, well, this is just better. I don't have to spend an hour more commuting, which is a waste of time. It's a waste of money. It's boring. I can kind of be closer to my family. I can be closer to my home. All these other benefits of that. And maybe, you're missing out a little bit of that, being surrounded by workers, and maybe it's a little bit easier to collaborate with them. But I think the benefits just outweigh the cons for most people. It should be a choice for people, and taking that away is just gonna piss them off. And you know what else is gonna piss them off? Taking away their bonuses, which is a big part of the pay structure at Blizzard. If you go to work there, you factor that into your salary, and now just to yank that away that's some big bullshit. That's just basically a reduction in salary.
This is yes, and all that stuff is going to hurt. And you nailed it when you said they aren't going to be able to, if they're trying to push people out. This is a wild thing to do, and they just I can't see how this company would be trying to push people out. I think they announced layoffs that were related to publishing and their overhead, not any of the development teams. At least it didn't seem like it was. They've been struggling to attract talent on their development teams for years now because this is true across Activision, but it's true of Blizzard because there was a lot of reports of a toxic work environment, and a lot of people are like, I can go work somewhere else. And it's only been getting worse as the Bobby Kotick influence was becoming more and more apparent at Blizzard. People don't want to work for Bobby Kotick. That's been one of Activision's big problems for a long time now, and that has become Blizzard's problem over the last few years. And so any little thing you do to push people away is going to be exacerbated in that environment. And all this stuff it just seems like that's exactly what it's doing. Apparently, Ybarra was asked about a payment for, the quality of work and the quality of pay for people who are in the customer service and the quality assurance departments. And Ybarra reportedly replied, "Some of our disciplines are not long-term disciplines." And an Activision Blizzard spokesperson basically followed that and saying, because we want people in those departments to grow and expand and take on new responsibilities and opportunities. That's true of everything. What does that have to do with paying people more in those departments right now? It just sounds like more like we are trying to limit what we think you are when you're doing those things so we can pay you less.
It's like, yeah, well, that's the job you have right now is shitty and that's stupid, and you're just going to accept that until hopefully you grow into something new. Yeah, I mean, that is just so encapsulates the whole problem with the way work is handled in like the whole country, where everybody is just kind of, supposed to aspire to something new, and then it's going to be better, and then eventually there may be somewhere beyond their means even sometimes, or beyond what they want to do. Like, why can't somebody just be a QA tester, and why can't that be a meaningful job, a good job, and a well-paying job? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's Dr. Randall Chet said. Basically, he's saying that those are not viable career paths, or not valid career paths. So that's what, that's.
If only somebody could make them valid career paths.
Yeah. If only someone in charge could make them something that people could live on and actually survive on. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's hard for everybody. It's hard for the executives. You just don't get it.
Yes, you're living a myth. That's what you're doing.
A myth.
Oh man.
Damn it.
I mean, this does sound disastrous. We did see people out on social media yesterday just outright talking about this at Blizzard. Then I also had people reaching out to me on DMs, kind of explaining how they were feeling, and it's just it hurts morale in a company that already had very low morale, in a company that is overall, like, if the Microsoft deal doesn't go through, it feels like this company's doomed. Oh
my God,
they'll figure it out, but it just feels like, how are they going to grow, which is what they will need to do as a publicly traded company? How are they going to grow when they can't even be satisfied with what they're making right now? Like I said earlier this week, Call of Duty is making more money than ever, and they're still not satisfied. It's still not hitting the targets that they set. And it's okay, well, if that's happening over at Activision, Blizzard's going to have to make up that difference. And we already see how they've misstepped frequently recently with trying to do that. And it seems like it's only going to get worse because they've pushed away all of the developers that may have had that institutional knowledge. And those people are all creating their own studios, all in that same area. And they put out stuff like Marvel Snap, and they're putting out a bunch of other things. And they are just not working at Blizzard anymore. And so that talent has moved on. How are you going to attract new talent when this is how you're telling people you're going to treat them? You're not just treating them this way. You tell them you're going to treat them pretty poorly. It's wild.
Right, and Blizzard's leadership problems have been bad for a good while here, right? Ever since Michael Morhaime left, which was a bit ago. You had J. Allen Brack there, and he didn't last. Then you had like the two co-presidents, and I forget the woman's name, but she left pretty quickly, and that was weird. And it's just been Mike Ybarra, and now you have him just kind of, you have this embarrassing meeting, and then it's made worse where like Blizzard or Activision clarifies, well, actually, we are proud of Mike Ybarra because what? Because he told him what we wanted him to say. Great, yeah. So it just very clearly puts Ybarra on team Activision executives, which is going to hurt his standing at Blizzard. Like, employees are just not going to trust them, and I don't know how you could possibly earn that back. And it is incredible seeing active employees of Blizzard going online in space, basically saying as much, right?
Yeah.
Which is like kind of a risky thing to do, and everyone is so pissed over there that a lot of them are doing it anyway. So you can only imagine what the talk is like at Blizzard right now. Yeah, Jen O'Neill, thank you so much, OG. So yeah, I don't know. It seems like a disaster. Things are so precarious. And it's a really difficult time at Blizzard because they need everything to hit. If Diablo 4 somehow doesn't work out, that's going to be rough. Talk about living in a myth. I wonder if we're living in a myth thinking that game is actually coming out in June. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they were running tests like late last year, right? So I don't know.
Did test and stuff for a while. Yeah.
I have no idea what that means for the actual release date for that game. Mike, do you think there's any chance, and this is definitely tinfoil hat, so everyone just bear with me. Do you think there's any chance that this is a producer's situation, that they have been out there just acting like goddamn clowns, Bobby Kotick included, going on CNBC and being like, I'm going to stay in charge, and I'm going to fuck this place up, and I'm going to burn it to the ground, and no one's getting rid of me if this deal doesn't go through. And then they do the meetings like this that don't seem like they were meant to stay private. It seems like this meeting was built in a way that's like, oh yeah, all this information is going to get out there and you're just going to act crazy. So Activision could just look like a clown show that needs a strong hand like Microsoft to step in to help with regulations. Is that even possible?
I guess it's possible. It seems a little too clever.
Right? Man, people are saying the producers is not a universal reference, and that makes me upset.
Jeff, no, guys, please. I've been called an old man too much.
Yeah, please just leave us alone.
You know what? Maybe you should go see the producers then.
Yeah, my bones are frail. Please leave me
Yeah,
alone.
maybe that's actually a you problem then.
Yeah. The simplest solution here is that Activision just sucks, obviously. Like, I get that. But still, part of me is like, man, maybe they're just like throwing caution to the wind and trying to like look pretty weird and evil so that when Microsoft points out, like, listen, the people in charge over there just can't handle it. You should let us have it. Yeah, I don't know.
Right. I mean, it's like true, but it's also kind of shitty. It's not because we've seen what Microsoft's done to 343 and some other studios, right? And if one more person tells me 343 had it coming, please don't. God,
please leave me alone with that. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just really shitty, and workers at Blizzard have already been through enough to have this one more thing. I feel for them.
Yep. I mean, and this also feels like maybe part of the process of the way acquisitions work in games, which is, I think, what people are worried about with Microsoft acquiring Activision. I just think the throwing old game studios into the compost pile to try to create like new creative stuff and like letting the people that worked at those studios go somewhere else, it is always kind of ugly and bad in the end, and that's where we're at with Blizzard. This is the end of life for what Blizzard was. Honestly, this is actually just decomposing before our very eyes, because everything that Blizzard was is already sort of gone by the wayside, and the people that run Blizzard have done nothing to sort of rekindle that spirit and keep it going. In fact, they've done everything to sort of derail that and devalue that and ignore that, because occasionally it gets in the way of making more money. And so, yeah.
But despite everything, there are like a lot of like talented developers working at Blizzard, and they are capable of releasing good games. World of Warcraft just had its best expansion,
yeah, of course,
in a while, right?
I mean, and those people are going to be the people that like wanted to go work at Blizzard to make that kind of thing, because they probably have grown up playing World of Warcraft now at this point. So yeah, of course they could. That stuff's still going to happen. It just seems like the Activision side has really gotten in the way at every opportunity to diminish those efforts, and that's sad.
If anybody ever told me I had to go into an office at this point in my life, I would just tell them to go to hell.
Yeah, same.
It's not going to happen at this point in my life.
Yep.
Sorry.
E3 2023 is definitely still happening. This comes from Eddie McCoo at GameSpot. A headline like that makes me feel like, wait, maybe, is it happening? It's like so definitive. Like, why do we feel the need to point that out? E3 2023 is still going ahead, even though Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo are reportedly skipping the showcase, and Ubisoft's top boss seemingly isn't sure. The president of E3's new organizer has confirmed that E3 2023 is quote, full speed ahead and on track to take place this June as scheduled. Lance Finsterman told The Verge, E3 is full speed ahead and we are pleased with the progress and engagement from the community. E3 hype train, as we have confirmed exhibitors, we are eager to share more as details get cemented and participants ready their own detailed plans. Finsterman basically said, like with ReedPop's other events, this is ReedPop running E3 now. ReedPop does PAX, they do New York Comic Con, things like that. They say they usually don't announce participants until they're closer to kickoff, even though they know E3 typically announces them, much earlier. So they said, you know what, we're going to try to balance it out here and do things the way E3 has done it in the past, while still kind of mostly being ReedPop about it. That might go in line with, they said they have some news that they're going to announce in the next few weeks about the show. I still have heard, relatively recently that the show was coming together, but they were doing a lot of stuff that should have been done by now, and they were still in the midst of like getting those plans in place. And so there was a lot of unanswered questions when a company like Ubisoft would go to E3 and be like, hey, what if we do want to participate? ReedPop didn't have all the answers at that point, which is what I think Yves Guillemot was probably referencing when he said during the conference call with investors, if the show happens. Now, I have heard that Ubisoft is supposed to be there, but maybe that's changed since those questions weren't answered. So, yeah. How are you feeling about E3 now, especially after hearing this?
I mean, there will be an E3. I definitely believe that. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think it'll be fine. I think it is going to be... It's definitely going to feel lesser than Prime E3 or even, like 2019 E3, if you can't have any of the big three. But, if you can get Capcom there still, that is still a big deal. They have a lot of big games to talk about. Square Enix still has a lot of stuff that they can talk about. Ubisoft, I know they say they're not sure, but they presumably can come up with their Assassin's Creed game and Avatar, what have you. you could do enough with the big third parties that it should still be interesting. And I don't know if maybe you'd lean into the whole fan fest kind of thing more, and you can come up with other things besides. I don't know if you need panels necessarily, but something aside from literally just a bunch of studio booths. I don't know.
E3 had the worst panel I've ever seen in my life, Mike. It was.
Wow.
We watched that concert, Empire of the Sun, the band I like. I was very excited, and there was like 12 other people there, and then I went to I knew Jeff Keighley was having like some panels as part of the E3, so I went and stood in the back, and it was Jeff Keighley talking to Elon Musk, and some lady got to ask a question. And she's like, Elon Musk, can I take a selfie with you? And he just was like, that would be weird. Like that's his first reaction, and then finally, he was shamed into it. And he's like, "Fine, I'll take a selfie with you." And he did the biggest eye roll I've ever seen. And I'm like, "God, you cringe piece of shit! I hate you so much." And then everyone else finally agreed. A little bit later.
Never had to deal with him anymore.
Yes,
least, right?
Thankfully, I haven't seen much of him ever since. So at least that's the good news there. I don't know. You're right. Panels at E3. Does that make sense? That's what Repop would do at a PAX, and they're trying to make this work for, I think, that kind of audience. Because what else you can do? Well, you have a bunch of lines for games that you're going, and they're going to be long lines. But if it's only a handful of developers and publishers, those lines are going to be even longer because they're going to be, they're going to be serving a wider audience, and there's just less supply, more demand. So maybe I just don't know what they're going to do.
Capcom booth twice as big just to make the line shorter, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, try to create a scheduling system. I remember when Sony did that one year, and it did it broke.
Fast Pass or Genie Plus.
Yes,
kind of
basically yes, and it's the system crashed first thing in the morning, and then so it didn't actually work.
Hard. That took Disney a while to figure that stuff out. I don't think a Repop can just kind of whip one of those up.
Yes, I mean, we'll see. I think you're mostly right. I think E3 is probably going to still serve the purpose of it'll give enough executives enough reason to get to the same place at the same time that meetings and deals can happen, and some developers can sell some games and make some money. And if that side of things is happening, E3 will still continue to prove its value to a lot of people. And then, if we can go and see some games and talk to some interesting people and maybe put on a show, that would be fantastic to me. So I'm like, I don't need E3 to be much more than what they're promising. Of course, it'd be cool if Nintendo was still there. I never really expected Sony to be there, but if they're not, oh well. I'm sure the Direct will be fun to talk over whenever it does happen. XCOM and Midnight Suns designer Jake Solomon leaves Firaxis. This comes from Ollie Welsh at Polygon. Jake Solomon, the creative director and lead designer of the XCOM games and Marvel's Midnight Suns, is leaving developer Firaxis after 23 years. Announcing the move on Twitter, Solomon suggested that wherever he lands next, he will be branching out into a genre other than the one in which he made his name. He said, quote, "I loved designing tactical turn-based games, but it's time for other smarter people to push that space forward. My brain is on fire with a new dream. Time to go chase it." Alongside Solomon's
NFTs.
It's time for NFTs, baby. Jake Solomon's going to make them happen. I believe in him. Alongside Solomon's exit, publisher 2K Games announced a change of leadership at Firaxis. Studio head Steve Martin is leaving after over 25 years at the studio, and he will be succeeded by Chief Operating Officer Heather Hazen. Hazen took the opportunity to announce that the next game in Firaxis' flagship series, Sid Meier's Civilization, is in development. This feels like a small response to what Midnight Suns not selling very well, which is something they said in their most recent call with investors at 2K or at Take-Two, excuse me. But also 23 years working on these kinds of games, and maybe they did say, well, listen, we don't have the money to go make an XCOM or whatever. We tried something different with Marvel's Midnight Suns with a license, and that didn't work either. So, what do you want to do next? And then he pitched something that they don't want to do it, and so he left. Or maybe it was just time to move on. Either way, this does feel like an end of an era for Firaxis, right?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that they're going to be making a new XCOM. I don't think anyone's expecting a Midnight Suns too, but maybe the tactics era of Firaxis is good and done with,
or at least on hiatus, right? Like on a long pause until hiatus. Yeah, exactly.
Sure. 15 years. Hey, remember with Dead Space? Seemed like that was absolutely done forever because Dead Space 3 was so bad, right? Give it 10, 15 years, and you can find a door there again. Sure.
Yeah, And also not surprising to hear that they're making Civilization 7. Like, of course they are.
Right. It's funny to announce. They basically announce it here to kind of like put out a fire that they're announcing, right? Like,
yes.
Here's the fire, but here's the water. Hey.
Yes, exactly. And that is what I think most people still want from Firaxis. The Civilization games are mega popular. I remember Civilization 5 was just at the top, like near the top of the Steam charts, in the top 50 of Steam charts for years and years and years of most played games. I think 6 finally kind of got to that place as well, I believe. Civilization 7 can definitely repeat that. It has a huge appeal to a pretty massive audience, so we'll see if they're able to recapture that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is always kind of weird when the new Civ comes out because the last one isn't always in a great place because it's had like 2 expansions and a bunch of other stuff. So the new one's never as feature complete as the last one. I remember when 6 came out, a lot of people were like, I'm happier playing 5 actually because it has a lot more stuff. 6 eventually got there. It is weird. Like, I do wonder what exactly at this point do you do with a new Civilization, really, that 6 hasn't done well or 5 hasn't done well. I'm not sure what exactly you can add to that, but I know people will buy it.
Yeah.
I'll buy it. So, yeah.
And then when they try other things, right, they did, most of these were like expandalones, that Civilization Beyond Earth or whatever it was.
Yeah, the space one.
Yeah, the sci-fi one. But, like, that still feels exactly like Civ 5. So this is a bit strange. But, I mean, whatever. I think they probably know they don't have to mess with the formula too much. You just keep adding more on top of it, and it'll probably be fine. Although they have done some pretty big changes in the past. Remember when they went to hexagons? All right, Saudi Arabia's public investment fund increases stake again.
Maybe they go back. Sorry, maybe they go back on the hexagons, right? Maybe or
back to squares. Ooh, yeah, there we go.
Back to squares. Back to square 7. That's the
dodecahedrons. Let's get wild with it. I was trying to think of another shape. That's when my brain or my face went dead there for a second. Everybody, it was my brain really working. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund increases stake again. It now owns 8.26% of Nintendo. This comes from My Nintendo News. Saudi Arabia Public Investment Fund has once again increased its stake in Nintendo. It was only the other day that it raised to 7.08%, and in May 2022, Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund only had 5.01% stake in Nintendo. Of course, Nintendo isn't the only video game company which the Saudi Arabia PIF has been investing in. As its subsidiary, the Savvy Games Group has a large stake in Embracer Group and Capcom, among others. Saudi Arabia's public investment fund is the largest outside investor in Nintendo. This is something I literally talked about on Wednesday, right? This was just Wednesday where they went from 5 to 7, and now they're up to 8.26%. What is going on here? This feels like pretty aggressive.
Right. At first, when it just went up to 7.08, it's like, oh, well, they are trying to diversify from oil and they got, eggs in a lot of baskets. Now that it's already gone up again, and like, you said this last time, it's billions of dollars each time you go up by more than 1%.
Yeah, it's in that range, or at least or at least hundreds of billions of dollars. I was going to look up their market cap.
It's a lot of money. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's not the nightmare scenario where somehow Saudi Arabia's public investment fund has a significant say in what Nintendo does.
Yeah, it's they can if they get to the point where they're asking for a seat on the board, like that is going to be pretty substantial and scary. I think there's not necessarily any evidence to think that they would want to do that. They might be mimicking what a company like Tencent does, which is primarily, not in every case, but primarily make investments of about this size, and then they sit back and let the companies just do what they normally do. But who knows if that's the plan? It doesn't seem like that would fit with the goal of PIF, which, like you said, is to diversify away from oil. So they have all these different industries that want to take root in Saudi Arabia that provide other kinds of jobs. So, well, I mean, investing in Nintendo is like, okay, well, how do you get to there by getting 8%, 9% of Nintendo? Do you then ask for development in Saudi Arabia? Who knows? This could also just be a long-term play of like they see Nintendo as a growth opportunity and it'll pay back, and then that would be money they can use for other things. But this is it continues to be troublesome. Saudi Arabia, as we said on Wednesday, is a problematic state that treats women terribly. It has killed journalists. And now, whenever Nintendo succeeds, Saudi Arabia benefits. And what can we do about that? Once again, we're in this system where we're sort of handcuffed with our options. We can criticize or we can boycott, and yeah, those are options. It just feels kind of hopeless, and helpless. This is a Saudi Arabia, a state that is basically Saudi Aramco, the richest company in the history of the world. What can we really do to get their attention and criticize them? If someone could do it, someone would have done it by now. So it just feels really hopeless.
Yeah, not much you can do here but hope that maybe it stays at just 8.26%, which is just a lot of Nintendo to own. That is a ton. Like you said, it'll be interesting to see if they do ask for that seat on the board, because it might give an idea of what their intentions are here. Are they increasing their stake because they want to say what happens with Nintendo, or is it just money? Is it just we want to own a lot of Nintendo because we think they're going to make money and we want some of that money?
Yes. This is it feels like if they're buying stuff up at this rate, it's probably not going to slow down. And while they're doing it right now, Nintendo's stock price is down a little bit, especially compared to other Japanese tech firms that were rallying over the last year or so. Nintendo hasn't been. And so they probably spot an opportunity where it's like, hey, this is a low point. We know Nintendo's going to be releasing a new console here pretty soon. So this could just be an investment play to make a lot of money. And it seems like that will probably work. But man, that's a big number. That's tens of billions of dollars, billions of dollars worth of investment in Nintendo. Sega says Sonic Frontiers sales greatly exceeded its expectations. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. In a Q&A with investors last week, Sega Sammy Holdings Executive Vice President Makoto Takahashi and IR/SR General Manager Nobuaki Yoshi stated that despite the game's Metacritic score being lower than it had hoped, the game had sold better than it expected. At the time of publishing, the game has a Metascore of between 69 and 75 across its target platforms. During the Q&A, one investor noted that the average price of Sonic Frontiers hasn't dropped much since it was released, and asked what the company's sales strategy was for the game going forward. One of the executives answered, in terms of selling the selling price, we temporarily held a sale on Black Friday as per our initial strategy, but have since returned to the previous price and have been able to achieve results so far while maintaining the price level to a certain extent. The number of units sold greatly exceeded the full year plan at the beginning of the fiscal year, and we recognize that this is a title that we will continue to sell over the long term based on our sales strategy, such as pricing, promotions, and the development of free DLC. I think Sega basically saying Sonic Frontiers is a major success for them, even though nowhere near the bar of Luigi's Mansion 3, 11 million copies sold, right?
Maybe not, because they haven't. They don't have an exact number here, right?
I feel like the number was like 2 million copies sold a little bit ago. I can look that up, but yeah, I mean, this is still that doesn't feel like a lot. But so how much can a Sonic Frontiers game cost to make? I don't know. It seems pretty barren in there. So hopefully they made it for cheap.
You know why I think it's sold well, Jeff?
Why?
Because it's a good game.
I think you might be right. It actually is just kind of a good game, isn't it? It's like
it's a fun game.
It's fun. It's what it needed to be, and it's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's easy to pick on and point out, like the parts where, yeah, it's a Sonic game, so in some ways it's still kind of bad, but it's fun. It is fun. I'm right there with you.
It's fun, and I mean, it's embarrassing to talk about Metacritic scores in a way. But I do think it's low, and I do think that there is a bit of just some people are just going to come into Sonic games and kind of can't see past the joke at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's close to 3 million copies sold, actually, apparently. Yeah. So that's pretty good.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I am always surprised by the people who when talking about Sonic Frontiers were acting like it was some new Sonic 06 or something, right?
Right.
But and it's part of it is just reputation. Part of it is that I think if you haven't played these games, controlling Sonic maybe is difficult and is weird. But I definitely thought that this was probably the best 3D Sonic game. I don't know if I like it as much as some of the old ones that I just happen to grow up with, like Sonic Adventure, but it's probably objectively better than those.
It's clearly going in the right direction for where Sonic should be. And it's like, I hope they build on this. Now, of course, it's Sega, so who knows if they'll have the capability to build on it, but it's a good foundation if they do. All right. Well, because Sonic Frontiers is selling so well, Sega can afford to do the following. It is raising employee salaries. This comes from Alex Hopley at Game Reactor. Recently, a lot of gaming news regarding employees has been rather bleak. We've seen massive layoffs at Microsoft, for example, but there's also been some good news sprinkled in for gaming company employees, depending on where they work. Nintendo recently announced a salary increase for its employees, and Sega is doing the same. Annual salaries are set to increase by about 15%. Bonuses will be partially incorporated into salaries, and Sega is also revising its compensation system in order to further stabilize employee income and create a more comfortable working environment, as well as to further strengthen its global competitiveness. This is true for developers across Japan. They've been underpaid for a while, and the government there was basically said it's time to start raising wages, and so a lot of the publishers and developers have been responding to that, and that includes now Nintendo and Sega. But as we pointed out before, companies like Capcom, I believe, and Bandai Namco were raising salaries 30%. So this is even 15% at Sega, 10% at Nintendo. Who knows what the starting salaries are? But those yeah, that's good. But some companies are really beefing up that stuff so they could stay competitive and attract talent. And it stands in stark contrast to what we hear with stuff with what's happening at Blizzard, where it's no, they're they are struggling to attract talent, and they're just going to make it worse for themselves. Meanwhile, over in Japan, they are finally doing significant wage increases.
Is the pendulum swinging? Maybe this is way too simple of a way to look at things. Remember, for a while, all the good games were made in Japan. Then, the 360 era, it went over to the US, and a lot of that stuff was more Western. A lot of the bigger hits. Are we going back now? Is it generally the best stuff is coming from Japan again, with our Elden Rings and all the Resident Evils hitting big and whatnot?
I think what has happened, yes, in general, the pendulum probably is swinging back that way a little bit because I think when in the HD era, a lot of Japanese companies did struggle to figure out what they should be doing, and mobile was this really enticing alternative, and a lot of companies did go in that direction. But now the companies that have stuck around making console and PC games have found a way to make really great games that also make a ton of money. And I think that has encouraged investment in really high quality games. And so, it was kind of if the kitchen's too hot, get out of it sort of situation. And a lot of developers did get out of it, but the ones that remained were ones that could put out stuff that is incredible and can thrive. And I think we're seeing that. And I think the people that want to be working on console games in Japan are the best of the best developers in Japan. And when you kind of have that environment where artistry is so cherished, and making stuff that is sort of globally appealing has become more popular in Japan. I think it's all that stuff is beginning to pay off. It's been paying off for years. I think it's paying off even more now. All right. 3 rivals told UK regulators that Xbox's Activision deal would harm competition. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. 3 companies told the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA, that they believed Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision Blizzard would harm competition. As part of its investigation into the $69 billion deal, the CMA spoke to 6 third parties who are either existing competitors in console gaming or cloud gaming services, or potential competitors should the merger be approved. In a summary of the evidence it gathered from these meetings, the CMA revealed that half the companies said they believe the merger would have a negative impact on competition, quote, including by affording Microsoft the ability and incentive to foreclose potential and existing rivals in the console buy-to-play, console multi-game subscription, and cloud gaming spaces. 2 companies didn't express concerns about the merger, while the remaining ones said it was too early to determine what the impact of the deal would be. While the identity of the third parties wasn't disclosed, the deal has been met with fierce opposition by Sony. I think we can assume that was probably one of them, which has expressed concerns about Microsoft gaining ownership of the Call of Duty series, which the PlayStation maker has called irreplaceable. Bloomberg sources also recently claimed that Nvidia and Google had also expressed concerns about the deal to the U.S. Federal Trade Commission, which has launched a lawsuit in an attempt to block the merger. Maybe those are the other 2, and again, that wouldn't surprise me. I think if you are a company that is trying to be a service that either sells games or has a subscription, and you are looking at Microsoft doing this, of course you're going to be like, yeah, that seems like that'll be more difficult for us to compete with if Microsoft has those games. I don't think that's too surprising, right?
Literally, yes, it will. It takes away a competitor, right? It's consolidation. So yes, literally there will be less competition. But is that really what these things are about? Isn't it about monopolies necessarily? There's a difference, right? Of multiple degrees there, I guess.
Yeah, and it's and it's the people that the likely if it is Nvidia, Google, and PlayStation, those are competitors who are trying to create services and not necessarily trying to create content. So Activision would probably not be the direct competitor to them. It would be Microsoft, and so they're like, well, now Microsoft has more content, and that's unfair. I think that's an argument that's pretty difficult to track. So, well, then you just have to make more content. You have to compete harder. Like that's the idea here. But still, like this is the kind of thing where this is what the CMA is supposed to do. They're trying to hear everyone out, and I'm not surprised that some of the people they've talked to are like, yes, that seems like it'll be more difficult for us to compete with if Microsoft has that stuff underneath them. The again, we always talk about what's next here. What's next? We're still in the midst of all three of the big regulators: the CMA in the UK, the EC in the European Union, and the FTC in the United States. Just trying to figure out like when they're going to be able to like bring either their suits or their lawsuits, or to sit down at the table with Microsoft to begin either negotiating or to have the deal be dissolved. And like it does seem like the first one to do that will be the CMA in the UK. So we'll see what happens. That probably will be in the next few weeks when we hear like a big break in the story one way or the other.
Remember when like Brazil like okayed the deal, which feels like a year ago, and we were like, wow, this is really moving along fast.
Yep, I do. Yep.
How naive we were.
The salad days of this deal. Tetris Effect Connected is getting a TATE mode in a free update. This comes from Gavin Lane at Nintendo Life. Enhanced Games has announced that an update for Tetsuya Mizuguchi's Tetris Effect Connect will introduce TATE mode to the Switch version, enabling you to flip the console or your TV if you're hardcore on its side and get those blocks falling in a screen that better matches the orientation of the well. The update is scheduled to arrive on Wednesday to the 22nd of February. Showcasing it in a video clip on Twitter, Enhanced demonstrates the new mode with a Switch sitting in a flip grip. Mike, do you still have your flip grip sitting around somewhere?
Yeah, I do. I got one because I was like, I'm going to play Ikaruga with this thing, and that never did. But yeah, it might be fun to see what that's like. Chat's freaking out, Jeff, about the pronunciation of Tate, which I think you're correct. I think they just are upset to learn that it's pronounced that way.
I think it's Tate. I don't think it's Tate. I'm pretty sure it's Tate mode. I think I remember hearing that from Jeremy Parrish, but hey, listen, I mean, no expert on pronunciation. So
isn't Tate the jock from high school that stuffed me in my locker?
Yes.
I don't think that's how you would pronounce this.
Yes.
A video game
now
flippy
he's
mode.
in a Romanian prison. Yes. All right, we'll show this to people real quick. This is pretty cool. It's still like, oh yeah, the well's still like tiny because they have all the background stuff, but it's like actually bigger than if you played it in the horizontal mode. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, there's a bit less game space than I had assumed. But
yes, exactly. But whatever. I'm still glad whenever I see Tate mode get support, I get excited. Okay.
Maybe I should have a Tate day. I'll play some Tetris Effect. I'll play some
Ikaruga. Some Punch Out Arcade Archive with the two screens on top of each other. Donkey Kong.
Right.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff there. That'd be cool. Tate mode day. All right. Platinum Games celebrates Bayonetta 3 passing 1 million copies sold. The latest game in the Bayonetta series is absolutely filled to the brim with over-the-top action. And now the game's developer, Platinum Games, recently put out a tweet celebrating the fact that Bayonetta 3 has now shifted over 1 million units worldwide. This is since it launched on Nintendo Switch in October 2022. That's a pretty good number, I think, for that game. Also, I think I expected you to do a little bit more in that time period. A lot of other Switch games of that like scale, of that genre, feel like they would be doing 2 to 3 million, right?
Maybe. I mean, maybe Xenoblade is a good comparison here, which hasn't even quite hit 2 million yet, right?
Yes, definitely.
So maybe that's where it is. There's a lot of Switch games that kind of rest in this between this 1 to 3 million space. And unlike a lot of other companies, Nintendo's able to kind of release a good amount of those. So I think it's fine. You know, maybe it's disappointing in terms of what's the growth potential for Bayonetta, especially when you have another Bayonetta game already coming out soon. So, yeah, maybe there's like a red flag there. Maybe, I don't know if there's a Bayonetta 4 on the horizon. Maybe this series is something that's going to be wrapping up soon, but maybe not. Maybe they're completely happy with this and they can keep going.
Yeah, it's like that's the question, right? Is this, Platinum Games seem to be reeling after a handful of missed opportunities. I'm struggling to remember that Square Enix.
I was trying to think too. Yeah,
Babylon's Fall. Yeah, there we go. That's that. So like they had that, but they've had other recent misses as well. is this enough of a hit to put Platinum back on the straight and narrow? I don't know. It seems tough.
Time for them to finally port Star Fox Zero, baby. Let's go.
That's the answer. Or they should do a top-down game about Bayonetta when she's growing up and where she doesn't use any weapons or attack and instead has a cat.
I still find that all really confusing, Jeff.
That's Bayonetta Origins, Cereza, and the Lost Demon for people who wonder when. That's the Switch game coming out here pretty soon. A $60 game. I don't get it either, Mike. But maybe we're not the target audience. Obviously, we're not.
Well, I'm definitely not the target audience, but yet I'm still skeptical about that. I mean, I thought the whole point about Bayonetta was that she says fuck and like makes a lot of like innuendo jokes.
Yeah,
like that's a weird series to Muppet Babies.
Yeah, it is, and yet here we go. Some people are excited. Some Goldie says it should be 70.
I like it.
A huge update is coming for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet this month. This comes from Chris Carter at Destructoid. Shortly after launch, Game Freak and the powers that be ominously mentioned an update would come eventually to address some of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's lingering issues, and that day has come. It's coming. By the end of February, according to the official post on Nintendo support page. Let's dig into what's happening here. Pokemon boxes are getting some quality of life upgrades, changing up things like held items, and reordering moves is going to be easier, and you'll also be able to use an all boxes section command once the update hits. Icons for battle teams will be a little bit more pronounced now as well. They also have a list of bug fixes, like Terra Raid battles are getting a bug overhaul of sorts, including super annoying HP gauge not properly displaying glitch. The bug prevents you from acting in a Terra Raid, communication error problems, and matchmaking glitches. There's like a list of bug fixes as well. They don't say anything about major performance improvements or anything like that, Mike. This feels like it's not actually going to answer many of the problems people have with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I don't know. Scarlet and Violet continues to bum me out, especially when there are some people who seem to actually really love the games. I know I kind of jokingly get mad at people who put it in like their top 10 for game of the year.
Kind of funny.
It is kind of funny. Well, even our own our community did too, right?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm like, man, like of course graphics aren't everything, performance isn't everything, but it bothered me then, and now that I'm playing Metroid Prime Remastered, I just can't imagine going back to Scarlet and Violet, chugging along, looking with this Nintendo 64 textures and its awful frame rate, and I don't know. The whole thing kind of bums me out, and I wish I could kind of see the good in it that other people do. But yeah, if the patch could address some of that, if the graphics were still awful, whatever, but if it could at least run at a steady 30 frames per second, all right, maybe then I could kind of muster some enthusiasm for it again. It's just difficult right now.
Yeah, Jan says, these motherfuckers, Grubb. And yeah, I think we this is one of these games where we talk about maybe going back to, and I'm like, I don't know, something about it I do want to go back to. Maybe it is all the people who did look past all the issues and still had a lot of fun. But I don't know, when I see updates like this, it's like, they just don't really know how to fix this game, do they? Of course, there'll be more updates to come. They basically said there will be more updates after this one. Of course there will.
Sure.
But it's like, man, this doesn't seem too promising. We'll see what happens with Pokemon Scarlet.
Right, and there's my Switch backlog is getting pretty big, especially with RPGs. I gotta finish Fire Emblem Engage. I still need to start Trails from Zero, and that sequel to that is coming out soon. And there's stuff like the Tactics Ogre remaster I haven't touched, Octopath Traveler 2. Reviews came out for that today.
That's right. Yeah, God,
it
wow.
got good reviews. Which I mean, the first one did also, and I didn't really jive with that, but still, maybe I'll like this one more. So much stuff, and I just I just don't know. I gave Pokemon its fair shake already this generation and wasn't feeling it.
Man, do you remember what you guessed for the Metacritic score for Octopath Traveler 2? Because I don't remember mine when we did that.
I don't. Yeah, we and Jeff have been kind of doing a game where we've been guessing Metacritic scores for games coming out. I've been destroying him.
It's been complete luck. He's been very lucky.
I need a win after the whole 60-bit console thing, so I'm going to gloat.
Octopath Traveler 2 does have an 86 on Metacritic right now. Dexerto gave it a 100. Octopath Traveler is ideal on the Nintendo Switch and lends itself well to bite-sized portable gaming. Atomics gave it a 92. Octopath Traveler 2 is a fantastic JRPG that is so attached to the genre that all those who can't stand this type of game should stay away completely. But all of us who love the work of Square Enix, that Square Enix has done over the decades, and we long for the days we spent with Terra or Chrono, you will be able to fully appreciate all that Octopath Traveler 2 stands for. I was saying Chrono Trigger because chronology. Is it Chrono?
It's Chrono.
Okay.
Yes,
but
Chrono.
But when you're saying
Chronos.
chronology, it's Chrono. So
like Chronos, like the Titan, Titan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, everybody. My bad. I like to
Chrono
apologize.
Trigger, did I wasn't gonna say anything. It hurt to hear.
Yeah, a lot of people are pretty upset with me, but it's chronology. Come on, give me a break here.
No, I mean, but there's also Chrono. Yeah, but we can move
but
on.
There's also
we
nothing.
Try to find a path forward.
There's also a 70 from Inverse. Despite my frustrations with the limited ways that Octopath Traveler 2 improves upon the original, at its core, the game still scratches an itch that no other game can satisfy. I still spent more than 50 hours in the world of Celestia, exploring every part of the map I could and seeking out new stories to immerse myself in. Celestia.
They're really struggling to come up with these fantasy names these days.
Yeah, they're more and more syllables being pushed together that shouldn't be pushed together. That's 25 positive reviews and 1 mixed review, 0 negative reviews. That's pretty good. The 4th best rated game on Switch this year.
It shocked me that I didn't like the first Octopath Traveler because it looked good. I even liked the battle system, but oftentimes the hardest part of a JRPG to get through is the beginning because it's kind of a slow start. And the game was just designed to have you do 8 beginnings in a row.
Right.
And it was hard. And I don't think that structure's changed here, right? Like you still that's the whole kind of gimmick. So you still have to do that. So I wonder if I'm still gonna feel that slog. Hey, look, Like a Dragon Ishin's embargo also is up. That's got an
let's hit that as well.
for the PlayStation 5 version right now. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I'm gonna go to games. 82 on PS5. It's 37 positive reviews, 4 mixed. VG 24/7. Like a Dragon Ishin, in my eyes, earns the lofty score I'm giving it, which is 100. The game is the most fun I've had with a single-player game in years, and getting review code for it the same day as Hi-Fi Rush left me spoiled, incredibly tired, and astoundingly happy. Screen Rant gave it a 90, Gaming Nexus an 88. Let's see, IGN gave it a 70. While its half-baked gunplay should probably have remained holstered, Like a Dragon Ishin's stylish sword fighting and over-the-top trooper card attacks successfully pair the Yakuza series brand of hysterical action with the historical fiction of its 19th century Japan setting. Unfortunately, its step back in time also presents a slight step down in quality for its sub-stories and side activities, which have each been eclipsed in entertainment value by other Yakuza and Judgment games in the years since Ishin's original Japanese release. This is the game that was a PS3/PS4 game, right? I can't remember.
It was one that we didn't get before.
We never got it. Yes.
I almost thought 82 was kind of low, but I guess Yakuza Like a Dragon was just an 84, despite how kind of universally beloved it seems to be, right?
For a port of an older game that's been sort of remastered and it has obviously had some improvements. They put Kenny Omega in it and Rahul Kohli.
That's a big improvement.
Yeah, it's a big improvement, and so I mean, I think that's a pretty good place for this game to land. I know that Dan Reichert's been having a very good time with it, and that quick look is probably up, right, Jan? Because if the embargo was up, so people could check that out on the site now. Mike, I have a poll from yesterday that I would like to talk to you about. Did you like the Tetris movie trailer? 70.7% said yes. 29.3% said no. A lot of people were like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" when I posted this. So
that's funny.
How'd you feel about that trailer?
Yeah, I did like it. I think because of course they have to make things more dramatic, and sometimes when they do that, I roll my eyes. Like when characters start waxing poetic and sure, whatever. But yeah, I think it looks fun. It's weird seeing some of these Nintendo executives portrayed in a movie. That's goofy. It was giving me some the founder vibes, and I liked the founder pretty good. So I think it'll be a fun thing to watch once.
All right. So, I mean, I'm going to do a new poll for Monday. I think it's President's Day. I think we're working for Monday. I have no idea right now. But we'll do a new poll for whenever we're back. In the meantime, though, Mike, why don't you tell people where they can find you, what you got going on, things like that?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter and Twitch at Tolkoto, TOLKOTO. Please go to GamesBeat, which is where I'm managing editor. We've got a lot of good stories going up there. And then check out my 90s Disney podcast, 90s Disney, at 90sdisney.com.
All right, the new poll. Let me post it. Why is this so big and weird? All right.
That's what she said.
The New poll. Are you proud of Blizzard's executives? Yes, no. We'll see what people have to say about that. You have a day to vote. That's up now. In the meantime, everybody, on Giant Bomb today, we will have UPF later. I think the plan is to do Wild Hearts. We'll see. We still got to, I think, figure out who's playing with us.
It better not be that GameCube one, because you're not allowed to do GameCube.
No, if we do a GameCube day, yes, I'll make sure you know. I'll make sure to get you on there. Yeah. Also, this week we had a lot of fun stuff. Check out the voicemail dump truck from yesterday. It was a really good time. I think everyone really enjoyed that. Yeah. And then we're recording some stuff that might go up eventually. Just keep an eye out for that. It's a busy day, but definitely check out that Like an Ishin quick look from Dan and Jan, I believe.
Like an Ishin?
Like an Ishin, yes. That's what it's called now.
Like an Ishin.
It's Friday. I'm broken. I'm done. I'm over. My brain is melted. This is where we're at now. Mike, thank you so much for spending today talking with me about video games. I really appreciate it.
You're not welcome.
Everybody, thank you all. You're the real champions here. You're also the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.